What F1 drivers really think of the new 2022 car. The 2022 regulations, which were scheduled to be released in 2021 but were delayed owing to COVID-19, had a single guiding principle: closer racing. The increased complexity of Formula One cars has clearly hurt race quality in recent years. The complicated winglets jutting from the bodywork create a stream of dirty air, causing cars behind to lose downforce and making overtaking more difficult. To put it in perspective, modern Formula One cars lose 35% of their downforce when 3 car lengths behind the leader. The 2022 car, which was created by Formula One's in-house motorsports team in partnership with the FIA and focused on the aerodynamic phenomena known as the ground effect, decreases those figures to 4%. The combination of this, as well as a complete redesign of the car's front and back wings and Pirelli's new low-profile tires, has caused some curiosity among the grid. Lando Norris, a McLaren driver, believes the 2022 Formula One cars will change the driving styles of all drivers on the grid. In an interview prior to the season's start, the 22-year-old expressed doubts about the vehicle's suitability for his driving style and how long it will take him to adapt to them. "I don't know if I'll really be good with it, or I'll struggle a little bit with it. I think it's going to be the same case for everyone. Yes, of course, there's some. I don't know the word for it, like not nervous or anything, but some question marks. Like, how are you going to have to drive? Is it going to be a driving style that suits me? Like one that I'm not sure about, or one that I'm going to have to adapt to? And curiosity. That's the word I want." Lando Norris noted that this season, regardless of their performance in 2021, all 20 drivers will be venturing into unfamiliar waters. Everyone is going to have to adapt because it's so different. No one's driving style today is probably going to be the one that you can just jump into next year and do exactly the same. It will have to change a little bit. When asked if he was worried about the time it will take to adapt to the 2022 restrictions, Norris responded with a short but clear, "Absolutely." McLaren Executive Racing Director Andrea Stella considers Lando Norris to be one of the best drivers in Formula One, but he thinks there is still potential for growth. Norris joins McLaren in 2022 after having his most successful season in Formula One, including podiums, a first pole, and an agonizingly close win in Russia. Not everyone on the grid, though, agrees with the McLaren driver. Valtteri Bottas, a 2021 Mercedes driver, asserted that the 2022 vehicles are more identical to the 2021 models than Lando Norris said. With the 2021 season, Bottas' primary concentration was on Mercedes and supporting them in their war against Red Bull in both world championships. He did, however, keep an eye on Alfa Romeo after signing a multi-year contract with them that began in 2022. As a result, Bottas has completed several long laps in both the Mercedes and his new team simulators, and he has a likely surprising response to how the 2022 car feels. At least at that point, it felt like the cars are a bit off in terms of downforce, but the overall feeling, at least in the sim, wasn't that dissimilar in either of the simulators. We can't simulate falling other cars and stuff like that, but it's not crazy different. Maybe still a bit less downforce, but as I said, that will change. Bottas also feels that the speed and performance differences between the current generation of Formula One cars and their turbo hybrid predecessors will be swiftly reduced to the point where there will be no difference. Red Bull's Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez, on the other hand, appear to share both driver attitudes prior to the testing session. However, caution should be exercised in making definite forecasts about how cars will feel. "It's been all good, but a little bit slower," Verstappen said after preliminary testing. "But at the end of the day, we need to observe the real car on the circuit first and then tweak the simulator accordingly. To be honest, I don't pay too much attention to it right now because everything is still a bit of a guessing game." Perez went on to say that the 2022 car isn't horrible and that it's still early days, but that nothing would feel the same as the current generation of cars, which are the quickest in Formula One history. "I've only been driving the 2022 car a couple of times on the simulator, so we have to wait until we hit it on the track and start from there. But it's obviously very different compared to the current regulations. I think these cars we're currently driving, we'll never see them again in the history of Formula One. These are the best cars we've driven, all the people have driven in history. So unfortunately, everything will feel bad compared to these cars, but I hope it's just enjoyable to drive." Other teams, notably Ferrari, made a much earlier total shift of resources to focus on their 2022 difficulties during the previous season when Red Bull and Mercedes were kept on their toes until the bitter finish. With the new regulations still in their infancy, the head start might give the teams who started first an advantage right away. Christian Horner, the head of the Red Bull team, is still optimistic that his team has found the correct balance between work in 2021 and 2022. But he was also aware that the only way to know if its chances had been affected was to wait until the first race the following year. When Ferrari turns up with the fastest vehicle and smashes out of the park in the first race, you'll have to conclude that it probably did compromise us, he stated in an interview before the season's opening race. However, I believe we were all aware that significant regulatory changes would be implemented in 2022, and we allocated our resources accordingly. I'm sure each team has done what they believe is proper, which has put pressure on the organization, but I believe the team has performed admirably because maintaining a development rate on a new set of regulations while focusing on this year's car hasn't required a mammoth effort. The devotion exhibited by the entire team has been tremendous, but we'll only know when we return in a few months with completely new cars, which will look different, feel different, and drive differently. And who's done it right, who's got it wrong, it all starts over. And he was correct. For the first few races, Ferrari was the best. Even now, Red Bull and Ferrari are vying for first place in the constructor and driver categories. And then he was also right about Red Bull, as now Red Bull is doing significantly good. Toto Wolff, CEO of Mercedes-Benz, agreed, stating that in addition to rivals benefiting from an early development focus, the weighted aero handicap system, which allows teams to do more wind tunnel and CFD work, provides for more wind tunnel and CFD work for teams. Lowering the order could cause even more havoc. We're all operating under the same cost cap, and the concepts are extremely fresh, he says. Then there were the aerodynamic regulations, which gave teams a little more leeway based on their championship standing. So it's very likely that teams that haven't participated in the World Championship this year, whether it's Ferrari, McLaren, Aston Martin, or Alpine, will be capable of developing innovative designs based on far more runs than anyone else and simply doing things correctly. I believe we should expect much closer competition for championships and races than we did previously, which is fantastic. Few, on the other hand, are concerned that the new laws may lead to wider field spread, as some teams have identified better ways to unleash performance. F1 CEO, on the other hand, Stefano Domenicali, is certain that any advantages gained early in the season would be swiftly squandered as clubs figure out the new rules. Ferrari team head Mattia Binotto believes that the crucial factor this year will be how quickly teams can adjust to their competitive condition at the start of the season. Echoing Domenicali's opinion, in the competitive landscape is shifting swiftly. This was all for today. Right now, it looks like everyone is adjusting well to these new cars. What are your thoughts about it? Let me know in the comments. We'll see you at the next one. Until then, bye-bye.